I'd like to start this off by saying this isn't an ending prediction video per se. The contents of the one ending itself aren't detailed here except for the obvious fact that it will be a sad or bittersweet ending. Toby Fox has continued to say there will only be one ending, and Rousey refers to the bad outcome by saying there can't just be one ending. The point here is that the tragic outcome is directly tied with Toby Fox's presentation of this one ending. Since Rousey makes it explicitly obvious that this is the nature of the destined outcome, it calls into question what the weird root itself is. Chapter 4 muddies the destined outcome's immediate presentation by giving a hopeful view instead, where the message is to, presumably, write your own ending to overwrite the dark. The dilemma that has uncomfortable implications is this. As Rousey confirms, the weird root is clearly taking control of the narrative by force, by doing some incredibly dark and immoral acts. The destined outcome is sad and undesired. Gerson frames overriding the destined outcome as a hopeful reading. So, is Toby Fox basically saying the weird root is justified? So instead, the general consensus is something like this. The destined outcome is like the neutral ending of Undertale. The pacifist root is overriding the destined outcome in a hopeful way, and the genocide ending is like the weird root. 1. The significance of the weird root itself is now confusing. If there's the destined outcome, and there's a positive way to avoid the destined outcome, what reason do you have to commit the weird root? It's clearly inferred by Rousey that the purpose is to defy destiny in some sort of way, which calls into question the purpose of the root itself if there's already a positive way to defeat destiny. 2. It's still the most parsimonious reading to say that Deltarune will have only one ending, according to Toby Fox. He said, no matter what you do, the ending will be the same. Honestly, most games are like that, but for some reason it feels really oppressive to say here. Regarding the implications, he said, there's something more important than reaching the end. 3. The nature of what inspired Deltarune itself. Toby Fox said in an interview how Deltarune came to be. In 2011, while I was living away from home during college, I got terribly sick. I couldn't get my hands on any medicine, and while I was sleeping, delirious with a high fever, I had a highly vivid dream. It was a dream about the ending of a game, and ever since then, I became obsessed with the thought, I have to make the game that leads to that ending. Notice what it would mean for Deltarune to have a pacifist root outcome in this context. Toby Fox says, the ending, singular, and Deltarune having only one ending instead of a pacifist root outcome fits perfectly. There's no strong evidence of any different ending. So what is the actual evidence for there being multiple endings? Deltarune's Steam page saying only one ending, but with a question mark. The Secret Boss plotline is about freedom and implies a hopeful reading where the characters could break free from their strings. The weird root directly inferring you will have an outcome that isn't a destined outcome, which directly means the outcome will not be the one ending, meaning there are, in fact, multiple endings. With this out of the way, I'd like to reiterate that this video doesn't claim what the conclusion of Deltarune itself will be, other than the themes and that it will be sad, but rather that it comes to the strongest answer as to what the rest will be regarding Toby Fox's meta-narrative about the ending itself, which is arguably the part we're more interested in. First, I'm going to explain what I think the angel is in Deltarune as it's relevant, even if not necessarily required. I believe what fits as the angel has multiple meanings: the player, Gaster, and Noelle or December. Each angel reading shares a direct common ground, but before I get into that, I'll discuss each character separately. The player's coding as the angel is extremely obvious. The soul you control is essentially a beacon of light. Alvin says the angel's power lights your way. The track that plays when you soul fountains with the soul's light is called Your Power. Darkness represents fiction itself while light represents reality, and the player comes from the highest known layer of reality. Gaster's coding as the angel becomes more obvious with each chapter. Gaster is symbolized by 666, which has its own religious symbolism. He has this amount of HP, this amount of attack and defense. The voice in Chapter 1's intro sequence uses a typer value of 666. Gaster fell and lost everything, like how Lucifer fell and became a fallen angel. In Castletown, you see a door with 6 angel wings. Whenever Gaster ends up appearing in promotional art, he actually ends up being removed from it shortly after. One specific piece of promotional material replaced Gaster with a star, which is related to light, and the star symbolism relates to how Lucifer's name means morning star, or light bringer. The name Gaster is a play on the term Aster, Aster being the name of a font. The name Aster, in itself, means star in Greek. In Deltarune, there's the unused text, is that a cut on your face, or part of your eye? The gash weaves down as if you cry. In Chapter 4, there's secret text saying, and so wept the fallen star, making rivers with its tears. The Titans in Deltarune have their own demon-like imagery and the star symbolism. The Titan in Chapter 4 has angel-like imagery. Rousey says the prophecy was an ancient prophecy, foretold by time and space. Gaster was shattered across time and space. The hometown church choir in Chapter 4 says, of the shadows cutting deep and the heroes that save us, which is a reference to entry number 17 by Gaster. Noelle or December's angel coding is arguably the most obvious. Noelle says she'd grow big angel wings. A Darkener in Chapter 2's weird root calls Noelle an angel directly. Spamton calls Noelle an angel directly. Queen tries to make Noelle open a dark fountain and fails, but this is clearly a Chekhov's gun. Noelle and December made an angel doll. I left open the obvious angel doll symbolism in Chapter 4 because it can actually go both ways. It could represent the player as the angel, or simply as the angel being a vessel for the player. So which one is it? I think Undertale is a good example of solving this. In Undertale, the angel is the one who has seen the surface and will return to make the underground go empty. That has its own good or bad interpretation. It fits Frisk in the pacifist route for obvious reasons, Azrael in the pacifist route since he has seen the surface and frees the underground, and Kara, or at least a corrupted version of Kara in the genocide route by being the angel of death. So Undertale already shows how to approach Deltarune's depiction of the angel. What the angel represents will end up fitting all three. So what does the angel represent? The bridge between reality and fiction, light and dark. The angel is the most obvious one. The angel is like the dreamer, and Deltarune being the dream itself. Toby Fox directly implies this by saying the ending of Deltarune is like a dream he had. Gasser's connection is also extremely obvious. He built a canonical device the player uses to interact with the world of Deltarune itself, and he's the one who called us to play Deltarune. Before I get into Noelle and December's connection, I should detail what the roaring even means. It is the separation of light and dark vanishing as the two planes are fully bridged, where the fountains fill the sky and the titans take form in the light world. In the visuals depicting this event, you can literally see the angel present as this happens. Logically, the angel is connected to the roaring itself as the roaring is a bridge between light and dark becoming fully realized. Noelle is obviously going to have a big character moment later on regarding Rudy when his illness gets worse, and we already know characters like Gerson can reappear in Dark Worlds, so there's already a clear motivation for Noelle to make her own bridge. However, this angel coding may only be realized in the weird route instead. December's coding as the angel is arguably even more direct than Noelle if December ends up as the Roaring Knight, which is heavily implied to be the case. December would be the Roaring Knight, the one who brings the roaring, meaning she is the one who creates the total bridge between light and dark itself. We should also consider Dark Fountains. Dark Fountains are literally the canonical bridge between light and dark. Spade King refers to the Dark Fountains as Holy Fountains, whose shadows are creating a new world. What is the song that plays when you approach the Dark Fountain? The Holy, which is directly tied with the angel theming. With all of this in mind, let's go back to Undertale's pacifist ending. In Toby Fox's games, he treats the relationship of reality and fiction as independent. Once you stop playing Undertale, the characters don't just vanish into non-existence. Flawley confirms this by asking you to let Frisk live their life. Toby Fox confirmed this by saying, if everyone was happy in your ending, the people in the Undertale world will still be happy. So for Undertale and Deltarune, the worlds exist even without you present, just in an undetermined state. This is because of what the player does, determines. When you play the game, you continue to determine how the story will go with your presence. If you weren't present, the world wouldn't really cease to exist but be canonically unknowable to the player, unless if specified canonically, like by Flowey saying everyone's happy on the surface. Deltarune does something similar, but what it does differently is the most important part of the entire theory. When the soul breaks, you have the option to continue or give up. If you give up, Gasser specifies, then the world was covered in darkness. Sad music plays and then the game closes. This actually creates an issue. The prophecy says only the heroes can save the world from destruction, and the prophecy in its raw form confirms the worlds will be saved no matter what. So doesn't giving up here directly mean the world will be destroyed by darkness instead of the prophecy playing out? As in, logically, doesn't this mean the player's presence determines not just the game, but the prophecy itself? Yes, and I think this specific fact is load-bearing. But first, we need to evaluate something important. What do you prioritize in Deltarune's narrative? Is it literally just the one ending itself, or the meta-narrative surrounding the ending with the secret boss route and the weird route? I'm somebody who strongly favors the meta-narrative instead of the one ending itself. In general, I had the maximalist view. The one ending is sad on purpose to motivate you to find another path. The secret boss route is about defying fate, and whatever happens by completing this quest will lead to you being able to destroy destiny and free the characters, where you witness a new happy ending. The weird route is defying fate but in the most extreme way, seizing control by force, and it ends with a new bad ending. 3 endings, just like Undertale's neutral, pacifist, and genocide ending. So, what if instead, this was wrong? What if Deltarune was actually going for an anti-catharsis, where there really is only one tragic ending? First, let's go over the endings of Toby Fox's inspirations. Off officially ends with the batter flipping the switch, turning the world off to a black screen. Mother 3 ends with the awakening of a dragon and it seems the dragon will destroy the world, but the screen goes black and the characters in the aftermath tell the player they're okay. You're just not allowed to see what the world is like now. Yumi Nikki ends with the protagonist waking up after experiencing the dreamscape. She also jumps off a balcony, but that's not important. Moon Remix RPG Adventure ends with the tragedy happening because the player cannot open the door that resolves the story, and during this, the player's stand-in is interrupted from playing. You have the option to keep playing or not. If you do keep playing, that's considered the bad ending. If you quit the game, you see the player stand and walk through the door in real life, the door the player was supposed to open all along, rather than the impossible door in the game. Link's Awakening is a story about Link traveling on an island, and there's a character named Marin who resembles Zelda. Marin is interpreted as Link's idealized mental projection of Zelda. A character called the Windfish tells Link that this is just a dream. So when it wakes up, the island will vanish as if it never existed and the characters will vanish too, but the memory of the island will live on in the minds of Link and the Windfish. The Windfish eventually wakes up and there's a secret post-credit scene where Marin is represented as a seagull flying alongside the Windfish. Notice what each ending has in similarity: the direct theme of anti-escapism, or at the very least, a meta ending. Based off this, and based off Link's Awakening specifically, it's pretty safe to say that Deltarune's main ending will also have anti-escapism themes, especially considering the ending is literally from a dream Toby Fox had. It'll likely be the characters in the light world forced to permanently sever their connection to the dark world, whatever that looks like. What's actually important is what the secret boss route about freedom will lead to, and I have a strong idea of what that is specifically, but you'll probably find it disappointing. Take a deep breath. The player's presence determines the prophecy. The ending of the secret boss route is an anti-catharsis, where the player severs their connection to the characters before the tragic event happens. So in this context, let me lay down everything. Almost all of Toby Fox's inspirations carry a heavy escapism theming, with the ending being the fake world seemingly ceasing to exist from the perspective of the characters. Toby Fox had a dream about an ending to a game that's tragic in nature, confirmed by Ralsei, and Toby Fox strongly emphasized there was only one ending, reflecting on that. In Toby Fox's stories, there's already the structure of the world continuing without the player, because the player determines the prophecy. If the player were to leave right now, the world would be destroyed since the characters are no longer destined to reach the endpoint. Gerson's dialogue in Chapter 4 is very clearly a meta-commentary on fanworks. Susie says she wants things to go on forever, and Gerson says she has the white pen of hope to override the dark. In other words, literally write your own ending. The player leaves the game before the ending happens, and Toby Fox wants the player to write their own ending of what happened under this new interpretation. The secret boss route, foreshadowed by Gerson especially, is about granting the characters their own agency to stand on their own and become no longer reliant on the player. Once the characters are no longer reliant, gaining freedom, the player puts their trust into the characters by severing their connection to ensure the prophecy is undetermined. The cost is that what's unseen is up to the player's interpretation as an anti-catharsis. This is not another ending since the player leaves before it happens, therefore it doesn't violate the one ending concept. So what about the weird route? Under this interpretation, it fits perfectly. The normal route is about seeing things through to the very end, with a basic anti-escapism theme. The secret boss fights lead to a deviation that allows for the player to leave to let the characters gain agency over their own ending, where the characters draw with a white pen. This is a meta-narrative of the anti-escapism theme. The weird route, likely to be a meta-commentary on creepypastas or haunted game rumors, would then likely end as a barren wasteland where nothing can progress and the story has literally no ending as a result. The weird route is the ultimate rejection of having to leave, directly paralleling Undertale's genocide route completionist themes, staying, and taking the pen by force. Notice how this strongly builds on the themes of the genocide route in its own way without simply redoing it. When you take everything together, every single aspect fits perfectly, and I'd like to compare this to my original view. The maximalist view has 3 endings: normal, secret, and weird. The normal route ends with the tragedy. The secret route ends with the characters breaking fate on screen and you can see them live happily ever after. The weird route is like the genocide route but with a bad ending as you express your freedom. This is good from a writing perspective and what I wanted from Deltarune, but notice where it strains. It requires that Toby Fox specifically lied about his statements of Deltarune having only one ending, including him reflecting on that fact, including the specific line, "There's something more important than reaching the end." Deltarune's ending is based off a dream Toby Fox had, and he only specifies one ending, not more than one. The purpose of the weird route becomes confusing, as the purpose of this route is specifically about breaking the prophecy by controlling it. You already progress from the main ending to the secret ending where you break fate, so now the weird route is completely unneeded. The only reason to do the weird route now after the fact is because of curiosity, which is clearly not the theme of the weird route and goes against the purpose of it. In contrast, the anti-catharsis fits every single point perfectly. Every line by Toby Fox is recontextualized in a way that fits. No matter what you do, the ending will be the same. Honestly, most games are like that, but for some reason it feels really oppressive to say here. Regarding the implications, you said, "There's something more important than reaching the end." Regardless, I just knew I couldn't help but turn what I saw in that dream into a game. I don't even know if it will be fun or not, but even so, I just knew I had to make it. The 3 pieces of main evidence for more than one ending dissolve. Deltarune's Steam page saying, "only one ending but with a question mark," is a hint to the meta-narrative aspects like the conclusion of the secret boss route and the weird implications. The secret boss plotline where the characters could break free from their strings is satisfied. The weird route directly inferring you will have an outcome which isn't a destined outcome is referring to the non-ending outcome where you cannot progress. There is now a direct purpose for the weird route to exist. It builds on the themes of Undertale's genocide by being a direct refusal of the anti-completionist message, and the player has a clear motivation for going through the weird route in a way that fits. This part is pure speculation, But I think under the anti-catharsis view, we can guess what Toby Fox's dream was. Whatever it was a tragic ending where something sad happened to the characters. When Toby Fox woke up, he felt an attachment to these characters and knew by dreaming, determining the events, he made it canon in a sense. If he simply woke up before the tragic part happened, therefore leaving the events up to interpretation, the characters could have a happy ending. As another note, the wording from Rousey in Chapter 4 is very specific. So, until we see fate with our own eyes, let's believe too. Notice how Rousey's statement here is an explicit statement that the hopeful outcome is a matter of faith in the unseen. There is one solid argument against the anti-catharsis reading. It's a very simple premise, but the story of DELTARUNE in itself isn't simple. You could argue every issue with a maximalist view actually can work in its own way. If that's true, why wouldn't Toby Fox just go all the way and make the secret boss route and the weird route their own full endings, since that would be better writing in general? And to that, it's because of Toby Fox's own motivations, and that doesn't even need looking at his inspirations. The most solid piece of evidence is in Undertale's 10th anniversary livestream. Undertale's 10th anniversary was a livestream about Toby Fox literally motivating people to fill in what's unseen in his own stories, by doing a playthrough of Undertale from start to finish with bonus content you haven't seen before. To close off the livestream, he said,
"About the new areas, it's basically just a what if. But this what if was always there. It never wasn't there and it will never not be there. Every monster has to have a place to go home to. Every monster has to have friends, they have to something to eat, somewhere to go hang out. The underground is a wide place. The only limit to all of this is your imagination. My goal with these days wasn't to show you a new hidden truth you will never be able to access. My goal is to remind you that you have always been able to go, if you just hold the key of asking what's there. What's under the bridge? What's beyond the horizon? Maybe you guys feel only my answer to these questions counts or matters. But to me I only feel the opposite. This is just one interpretation. The underground is as big as you want it to be. And I invite you to come behind the wall with me."
A speech whose entire thesis is, the unshown is the point, my shown answer is not the one that counts, is structurally closer to an ending built around a withheld conclusion, rather than one built around a displayed one. So to summarize, I believe from a writing standpoint, there's only two options. 1. The maximalist view, or 2. The anti-catharsis view. The anti-catharsis view wins on simplicity, compatibility with the author's own statements, the structure of the story itself, the meta-narrative regarding how reality interacts with fiction, Toby Fox's own view on fanworks, and his motivation for making DELTARUNE in the first place. You can argue the maximalist view still works, but is undeniably asymmetric. The anti-catharsis view is more supported. As of right now, Chapter 5 is about to release, so I assume Chapter 5 will provide new evidence that narrows the gap.